Hello and welcome to the Men's Corner podcast. I'm your host, George Stumenov. Welcome. Today I would like to talk to you about a problem that we have. I'm sure most of you have noticed that if we have a problem in the world today, it's a lack of masculinity. I don't mean by this lack of machismo or lack of strong men even, but what I mean is that the masculine ideals of the past are clearly missing of today. So the men who built our world, who built the West as we know it, with all its excellence and virtue, and there's a reason why people from all over the world want to come to England, America, France, Germany, is because of that excellence. Now, that was built largely by men, largely by masculine power, and that masculine power strives for excellence. There is that drive for perfectionism. There is drive for perfection, rather, excellence. Now, when you look at the way standards in everything are dropping, rapidly dropping, workplace, speech, language, writing, my goodness. Someone said recently, I don't know what the next generation's history will be like. I don't know who will be rewriting it, but I know it will be full of spelling mistakes. So this is because the lack of masculinity. This is because the lack of masculine strength in men and in women. Men have stepped down and the feminine energy is taking over. Not necessarily women, but also women and men who have more of the feminine. But why is that? Why is that? Well, first, just to look at how that manifests. It manifests in, as I said, dropping of standards. It manifests as fatherless homes. It manifests as morality where anything goes. There is no absolute standards. There is no standards for anything. This is your truth, my truth. It manifests also as a lack of beauty. Lack of beauty in art, lack of beauty in architecture even. I mean, just look at which are the ugliest buildings. Communist buildings, brutalist buildings, buildings from movements that have very little to do with hierarchy, royalty, divine power, and everything to do with the power of the people. We all one, we all the same. It doesn't matter if we live in grey concrete blocks. It's good enough for all of us. Now, most of us would know that this is not only wrong, it's bad, it goes against the design. It's not how God made us. It's the opposite. It's quite, I would say, demonic, ugly, ugliness. Now, who opened the door for ugliness? I don't know who opened the door, but I just know that all conspiracy theories aside, in the past, the beauty was manifested because of the masculine strive for perfection, as we said, and the ugliness of today and the anything goes morality and relativism of today is because, well, men had to step down. Men had to abdicate their role as men. But why? Why did that happen? It's our fault, guys. It's our fault. Don't blame the women. Don't blame feminism. These things, they just fill the gap. They fill in the vacuum. It's the father wound. It's the father wound because we have moved away from the spirit of our fathers within us. And I use the word spirit in a more metaphor way. But what I mean is, every man is created with two general characteristics. One is his masculine blueprint. So the masculine blueprint of the man is the generic traits of masculinity given from father to son. So things like toughness, strength, ability to be a man among men, working to gain skills, working to perfect oneself. This is all masculine. Competition with other men, not giving up. This is all masculine blueprint. This is what every man is born to have and to long to possess because of that. Of course, needless to say, not everyone has that because not everyone has had it developed. Doesn't mean that you were never meant to have it. It just means that you didn't have a father who helped you with that. So this is number one of our, I would say, image of God, masculine design. Number two is connection, ability to connect, unique potential, connect with nature, connect with the world, connect with yourself. Now, number one is the non-negotiable of every man. If men don't have that, when men don't have that, they suffer and society suffers. However, this is equally true for number two, the uniqueness, the ability to connect, to create, to build relationships, to feel, to be sensual, to be in a beautiful way. So equally important, if you don't have number two, well, the whole world suffers. And this is why today has moved against masculinity, or rather against the masculine blueprint, number one, and towards connectivity, connectedness, number two. Just look at this. Because men didn't have number two, and how could they have it? They had to, for most of the 20th centuries, father had to get up, leave the house, work long hours, or get up, pick up their rifle and go fight a war, fight a war, fight the enemy, fight oppression, fight poverty, fight something. And so they could never really develop their creative, beautiful, nurturing connectedness, connected soul. They only had the blueprint. And even if they had very little of it, they had to develop it. They had to even fake toughness at the expense of all the other things. That's why when men came back from the war, did they talk about it? Did they find healing? No. They carried that trauma with them to the grave, and they traumatized their families. They had to drink, they had to beat us up. And this is why, instead of finding healing, today's world has concluded, no, masculinity is wrong, it's toxic. So everything to do with that masculine blueprint, now we need to throw it out of the window and move out to, well, if we don't have number one masculine blueprint that is wrong, let's get number two. Let's connect. Men must open up. They must cry. They must share their feelings. They must be connected. And look at this. What did you have look at how this manifests historically. What did you have in the past historically? Very defined nations, and very often conflict because of that. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. We all served the king, we all served someone, and ultimately most of us knew that we're called to serve God as well. Now, because we moved out of that, because we have unhealed father wound as a society and individually, most men have embodied the rest of it. Apart from the blueprint which they couldn't get developed from their fathers, what did they have left with? Well, the connectedness. Oh, well, I can't be strong, I can't discipline my kids, but I can connect with them. I can be kind, and who needs that harshness anyway? Let's throw it all out of the window. It's toxic. Let me connect. Let me be your best friend, we say to our children, not knowing that they need a father, not a best friend. And so as a result, how does that manifest nationally, historically, collectively? We all won now. European Union, globalism, the push for tear down the wall, tear down borders. We all won, regardless of race and religion. Connectiveness. Also unique creativity. And these days, schools are very good at that. In the past, schools would abuse their kids, our kids. Now, they would abuse them in a different way for not disciplining them. But what they have very good at now is every child is unique. Every child has unique potential. And this is brilliant. This is all good. So, see, in the past, discipline was good, but not without that uniqueness. And now, uniqueness is good, but not without discipline. We haven't really moved on as a nation of humans, as a species, I would say, even though I don't like that word. It sort of implies that we're animals. We're not animals. We haven't really moved on. We're just right now acting out one aspect of the human being. One aspect, and I'm talking about as a man, because men build society and women equip it. And if we take this to mean energy, masculine energy builds, raises up the skeleton of the backbone of the society, of me, of my house, and also my village, my country, everything, and the whole world. And women equip and furnish and make colorful and beautiful, give uniqueness to that. So today, we've lost the backbone, and all we have is that uniqueness. And that's why ultimately it leads to a lot of ugliness. It leads to ugliness in our children. It leads to ugliness in our society. It leads to fatherlessness. Guys, we live in a fatherless world. I don't care how strong and tough you are and how much you're fighting for conservative values. If you haven't spent years looking into yourself and dissecting your father wound, then you're acting out only one side of who you're meant to be. Conversely, no matter how much you're pushing for equality and we're all one and we're all unique, yes, it might be true to a point, just like the first one is true to a point. But if you haven't looked at your father wound and how much you moved against your father, probably your absent father or your harsh father, then you're acting out only the more softer, feminized part of masculinity. Both cases are ugly. The first one I understand a lot more because of after the 20th century, it's easier to see. And it's, yes, sometimes I'm thinking that excessive masculinity is just as ugly as feminized men, but at least excessive masculinity, you can understand it. And these days we see more and more of that softness, including in myself, of that ugly man-child feminine man. Men are never going to be feminine, but it's more of a undeveloped, stuck with mommy energy, man-child. Check out my book, The Mother Wound. Talk about boys in men's bodies stuck with their mom's energy, with their mother's energy. So no matter how big and strong you are, I used to build muscles, I used to be into that, but inside I never felt like a man. I felt that, no, I was just a child and I always needed to eat to comfort myself. We live in a fatherless world, and this is seen in architecture, as I said. This is seen in the eyes of the men today. Just looking at some movies, I just look at the actors today, and no matter how they're still handsome people, but largely speaking, I just see there's more softness in their features now. Not in their eyes, not in their souls. No, people are just as damaged as before. But now there is less masculinity. I just see that they look like babies, some of them. I was watching something the other day. I'm thinking, wow, things have really moved on. It's like, no matter, even some guys, they play that villain, but you can't pull it off because you need to have that masculine harshness. You need to be able to be fully masculine, fierce. And if you don't have it, it's comical. So just look at the dictators, for example. I mean, how many of them look masculine? I'm not talking physically. I'm talking about in their face, in their eyes, undeveloped, and then grasping for power. Well, that's a very feminine thing. We have a father wound, guys. We have a problem. And this is not a call to put you all together in a room holding hands and singing and crying. This is a call to examine yourself to say, okay, how have I, number one, rebelled against my father inside of me? So maybe your father was academic and you became more poetic and just creative. Maybe your father was logical, scientific, and you became the opposite. Or maybe your father was weak, but romantic, soft-hearted, poetic, maybe a musician. But he couldn't give you these boundaries. He couldn't show you what a real man is like. And then you rebelled saying, I'll never be weak. And so you became cold, hard, calculating, scientific. Now, imagine what would it be like to have both. Imagine with your scientific, sharp brain, imagine if you had a softer chest, softer heart, able to feel, able to be nurtured, able to love life, love your woman, love your children in a connected way. On the other hand, also, imagine if you've become this soft, weak boy who can't stand up to your own wife and children, let alone the world, whose mom is still calling you 5 times a day and you can't shake her off. Imagine what would it be like to have the strength of your father, the backbone of your father, or your grandfather, whoever it is that had it in your family. But I guarantee you there was a man from the family who was strong, because we all made in the image of God. Imagine if you had that backbone to simply quietly be able to draw these boundaries without getting angry, without shouting at your poor mother, but just knowing where you stand and be strong and not needing emotion. Today's men have become emotional because we're stuck with the energy of our mothers. We live in a fatherless world. But that's because of our fathers. In the past, men had no emotion because they had to get up, pick up their weapon, pick up their tool and fight. Fight against poverty or against the enemy, but fight. And then they had to sacrifice their childlike softness, their wonderful uniqueness. But because of this now, we've seen, oh, they're too harsh. They never gave me, daddy, you never gave me that love. I didn't even call you daddy. You were too cold and harsh. So I don't have that strength. So what do? I use what I have. It's, well, I'll be soft. I'm loving. But something is missing inside, isn't it? We live in a fatherless world. And one final point I'd like to make, just to show you how fatherless the world is. Religion. Now, the Western world was based on Christianity. I don't care if you're religious or not. This is not a call for religion, but it's a call to just look at patterns. And pattern, that's where the word paternal, father, pattern, paternal comes from. And matter, mother, matter, something you can touch and feel. I need milk, I need softness, I need food. That's matter. Give me matter or I'll die. Well, that's mommy, isn't it? That's the breast. There's a reason why Just look at the hip hop culture. Breast, women with big breasts. We're obsessed with mommy. We're feminized. No matter how big muscles or how big sports car you got, you might be feminized if you're obsessed with women and hooked on women. Especially just look at that obsession with breast, nurturer, protector. There's a reason why the old religions, the pagan religions, were female religions. They were goddesses because the instant satisfaction, the sexual, the sensual, and this in itself, that desire is not bad. But then the father needs to step in and cut you off from that. You had enough of that. It doesn't mean it's bad, but as a child, you can't. If you stay there forever, you'll be a child. That's why men who are hooked on women, how I used to be, you can't grow up. You can't be a man because men need to get tougher at some point. Then they need to be weaned off mommy, and I couldn't be weaned off mommy. So I fancied myself a playboy. That's not a playboy. Well, actually, it is a playboy. It's not a man. And today, in the West, that was the whole thing that we've got going on, the whole good thing that everyone in the whole world wants to come in and benefit from is because of the Judeo-Christian values. But that's father-centered. Our religion used to be father-centered. It used to be about duty. It used to be about don't go by your feeling. You need to follow this example. You need to follow these instructions. And then feeling, of course, they would follow. We're working for the future. We're working for posterity. We're sacrificing the now to gain a better future. Where the opposite in today's mommy culture is sacrifice the future to just gain today. You're good enough as you are. That's a mama. That's a female energy. That's in extreme form politically. That's communism. We're all equal. We're all good enough as we are. But monarchy, which is more right, more close to our design, it's like, no, you have authority. You have someone and something to live up to. You have a blueprint within you that if you don't act according to it, something in you would not go well. Something in you would not be honored and it would not be developed. Just look at our churches today. It's all about Jesus. And why are young people leaving the church today? Do you think it's because they don't like Jesus? Do you think it's that because they don't want to get close to Jesus? No, it's not. They sense that something is wrong. The whole morality gospel. Oh, well, we're all sinners. There's nothing you can do about it. It's how you are. But Jesus will forgive you. So just keep sinning and keep going back to Jesus for forgiveness. It doesn't work. How long, especially when you're young, how long you can carry out that charade? Live a double life. Jesus himself said you cannot live this double life. The word he used in Greek is disukos, psyche, double psyche, duo, double psyche. You can't be double psyche, you can't be split within, but we are all split within. We have a father wound. So the churches today, instead of upholding the Father, instead of showing that, oh yes, follow the example of Jesus, accept Jesus as the way to the Father, we're just talking about Jesus. It's all about sin and forgiveness, and then sin and forgiveness again. And it takes a lifetime. One priest said to me, because in the beginning I went to a priest and I said, listen, I'm really struggling with this sexual stuff. I don't know what's happening. I want to be free, but I've lived like this all my life. How can I make it better? How can surely, I believe in God, but surely he can help me maybe? Because I heard people talk about like help now. And he just said, well, it takes a lifetime, this journey. And it's just something in me just got broken. I went like that. I don't want it to take a lifetime. I'm young, I'm full of energy. I want this energy to go somewhere else instead of in these dark places. And our churches now, they're manifesting just that. Well, you're good enough as you are. We can't really help you. But all you need is just to be forgiven. You're a forgiven sinner. There you go. Are you not happy? However, this is not the truth. The truth is that there is a Father and we are sons and daughters. But right now we're talking to men, sons of that Father. And as a son, you have a blueprint. You have uniqueness. But today's world says enough about that, so I won't talk too much about this. But you have a blueprint. So every man, if you're born male, you have a blueprint of masculinity that you can rediscover and honor through your earthly father and through your heavenly Father. I'll leave you with that. I'll leave you with that. There is so much here, guys. Okay. Till next time.